In 1953, the answer of how DNA works was provided in the journal Nature by Watson and Crick. And Watson and Crick have been given all the credit for understanding that DNA is a double helix and encodes a gene program to provide for the characteristics of an organism. I just want to make a point right here, it's very important, that Watson and Crick were actually not the real founders of the DNA double helix. It was a woman, Rosalind Franklin, who through her research on DNA molecules first showed the picture of an X-ray characteristic of a DNA double helix. Interestingly, Rosalind Franklin's major advisor gave her research results to Watson and Crick without even telling Rosalind Franklin that he did it. It was that research that led to Watson and Crick coming forth with the famous DNA double helix picture in 1953. Well, once we started to understand the nature of DNA, we started to recognize that it is what is programming the character of an individual. It is responsible for heredity. And now comes a serious issue, because the chromosomes carrying these genes which control our character, well, we get them from our mother and our father at the moment of conception. Well, as far as we know, we didn't pick the genes that we were born with. And as far as we know, we can't change the genes if we don't like the characteristics. And a piece of research led us into another belief that disempowered us further. And that was, how is DNA controlled? Because DNA apparently is the blueprint to make the proteins of the body. Now let's go back a step. Physical anatomy of any organism or any cell is based on the proteins. The proteins are the building blocks that provide the structure and characteristics of the body. Through the work of Watson and Crick, now we understand that DNA codes for the structure of those proteins. So DNA is the carrying elements of heredity. Now the issue was, what controls the DNA? Well, this is where it all went wrong for this simple reason. DNA is a double helix molecule. In an early experiment, scientists split the double helix into single helices. And what they did is incubate it with the building blocks of DNA. And when they pulled out the single strand, no longer was it a single strand. Now it was double-stranded DNA. Oh my God, they said, DNA programs for its own reproduction. And all of a sudden they said, yes, genes turn on and off and regulate themselves, and also are the hereditary blueprints to make the proteins of the body. So all of a sudden they said, yep, genes turn on and off and control life. And we bought that belief. So now I go back and say, A, as far as we know, we didn't pick the genes. B, we can't change the genes if we don't like the characteristics we have. And now C, genes turn on and off by themselves. Well, you put that all together and you realize your fate is not in your hands. Your fate is in the DNA that you received. The character of your life is programmed at the moment of conception when you receive the genes from your mother and your father. Well, science got all excited by this because they started to recognize if we could identify all the genes that make up a human, then what we can do is use them as medicine and give them to people that have genetic defects. And so interestingly enough, the Human Genome Project got off the ground.